there's been many wars where people kill each other, and we want nothing to do with that.
Well, and this is the theme of the movie, right? Because Samuel goes, I would use that against a bad man. And the grandfather goes, well, how do you know who is the bad man? He goes, by their deeds, by what they have done.
The kid says that?
This kid says that. He says, I have seen bad men. He saw a man get killed in a bathroom. He's saying, but I know bad men by their deeds. The gun of the hand is a check against those men. Hello and welcome to the Brothers Random Show. My name is Travis.
I'm Michael.
And we are two ordinary brothers discussing extraordinary ideas and some random shit. Michael, why are we here?
Today we are reviewing the 1985 film Witness, starring Harrison Ford.
Hey, man.
They didn't know there was a witness.
Carter didn't tell me about the eyewitness.
Yeah, Amish kid, 8 years old.
A man of force.
I'm a police officer, ma'am. I have to talk to the boy.
A woman of faith.
You don't understand. We have nothing to do with your laws.
Yes, I do. Your son's a material witness to a homicide.
Worlds apart.
Now you have a witness.
Yeah, now I got a witness.
John, what's going on, man? What is happening?
You said we would be safe in Philadelphia.
Well, I was wrong.
He left with the Amish woman, right?
If they find me, they find the boy.
You bring this man to our house with his gun of the hand. You bring fear to this house.
Everyone has an idea about you and the Englishman.
But since Hollywood isn't making any good films, we have to go back to old films to review.
What a dump.
Yeah, it stars Harrison Ford and Kelly McGillis, a very young. Both of them are pretty young in this, actually.
And a young Viggo Mortensen.
Yeah, I was surprised to see him in this. That was wild. It is directed by Peter Weir. Here's a quick synopsis of it. While protecting an Amish boy who is the sole witness to a brutal murder and his mother, a detective is forced to seek refuge within their community when his own life is threatened. So that's the synopsis. And Harrison Ford at his peak, probably. Harrison Ford had 2 decades of being peak.
I mean, Fugitive was 93, I think.
Yeah. So his
Fugitive
80s
and Fugitive, that's a good film.
80s and 90s were really good for Harrison Ford. Like they were prime years for that guy. This is a movie that people don't talk about a lot anymore. It was really popular when it came out. It's 40 years old this month. It was nominated for like 6 Oscars. It won for best screenplay, I believe, and best editing, because supposedly the screenplay was this phenomenally written thing. It's kind of the stuff of legends. The screenplay was actually used in like schools. They would print it out and show people how to structure a screenplay properly. So it's got a lot of pedigree behind it, but it's not well. Well, I guess 40 years is a long time.
Yeah.
And so young people don't really check these kind of older movies out.
Well, I don't think it lands well for a modern audience because of how much of a slow burn it is. Now,
yes, it's defined as a romantic thriller
or drama.
Drama
Was put in there.
Yeah,
as well.
Drama, romantic thriller, and these are movies that aren't made anymore because this is, like you said, it's a very slow movie, slow-paced movie. It has maybe 3 really intense moments in it, and they're well executed. And the violence is actually quite shocking. You're not expecting this violence to happen. Like, something bad's going to happen at the beginning, but you don't know. Like, it's kind of a shock. I think audiences were shocked by it. One of the villains in it is a very young Danny Glover, and he's the most famous.
That was fun to see. young Danny Glover. He only has like 2 lines throughout the whole film.
Yeah.
Too. Barely talks at all.
Yeah, Danny Glover starred in Lethal Weapon, and he did that 2 years after this movie. And that's kind of like, he's kind of like a supporting character in this. So Lethal Weapon kind of became his big jumping off. Like he became a pretty much a bankable star after that. The movie starts in the Amish community, which this is the appeal of the movie, right? And the appeal of the movie is that this is something that we've never seen before as an audience. We don't know this community. This community is extremely secretive. Well, not secretive, just kind of like
it's a closed community.
It's a closed community.
Yeah.
People, you and I often talk about cults, and it's hard to push like the cult mentality when you're talking about this kind of stuff, because this is a way of life. This is like if you're unfamiliar with what the Amish do, they don't have technology. And they dress old.
Nowadays, I want to say there's varying levels of that. Like,
well, the Mennonites are different. They're a different,
but even the Amish, I want to say even the Amish still, they'll sometimes drive trucks for their businesses, things like that. I'm not exactly sure. I want to say that there are certain, depending on the community and like what the community elders decide, what is okay for that community. So
interesting.
I don't know if there's a, obviously this one is playing to a very, very orthodox.
Yeah. Orthodox. Yeah.
Community, and no technology to be found. They're speaking German throughout. I believe that is the history of the Amish.
The Amish,
they came here from Germany.
Yeah. This is the appeal of the movie, right? You're getting a glimpse into a society that you wouldn't normally ever.
And this is 85. This is 1985. So most people have probably never seen a documentary about the Amish. Most people have maybe seen pictures or heard about them.
Yeah, in 1985. Yeah.
And this is probably the closest look that most people in the U.S. have ever had into the Amish community.
Yeah.
And it, to be honest, and it's funny, I was thinking about this, but I think it's For Richer or Poorer with
with Kirstie Alley and Tim Allen. Yeah.
Where they mention Witness. They're like, I know things about the Amish because I've seen Witness. Well, I saw Witness too, and I know the Amish don't do this. Anyway, so
good food, good meat, good God, let's eat. Amen.
So, basically, people probably thought, well, I'm an expert in Amish people now.
Yeah.
After watching
this. Yeah. So for people who don't know, Michael and I grew up on a polygamous Mormon compound, and there's these strictures that they put under you. This is the things that you can't do. And this is what I must have appealed to our mother, because she actually liked this movie a lot. And she used to do this thing where she would record rented movies, which I think was illegal.
Oh, it was illegal. It was illegal, straight up. Yeah.
But she'd have 2 VCRs and she would record them. But the way that she edited them, so that we wouldn't see certain things or be exposed to certain things, is if there were F-bombs, she'd pull out the audio cord
so that it wouldn't record.
So it wouldn't record, and so it'd just go silent. And then if it had like violence or sexuality, she would pull out the video cord, and then it would just be static, and you could hear a little bit of it.
It's funny because she cared a little less about violence. But definitely it wasn't sexual. But you see in the film, you see a woman's breasts, And that was a no-go for our mother. So she pulled the recording during that. So it was just static.
And
so
you just hear it.
Yeah.
And so that's the way that she would edit those. And then we had this stack of like recorded videos that we could always go back to. Because she'd have these movies that she actually loved, but there were things in it that she didn't love. And so she would find a way around it.
Edited them herself.
For the time, it holds up pretty well. I mean, you're looking at it going, as far as the emotions of the characters and all that kind of stuff, it feels very naturalistic. So let's get into initial thoughts.
Okay. You go first.
My initial thoughts is this kind of it's an old movie, so you feel the age of it. The cars are old. You have to go to a payphone to make a phone call, all that kind of stuff. But it's kind of like this capsule of a different time. And it's showing a different kind of people that you're not used to seeing. And it holds up. I think I would say it's very romantic. There's a lot of romance to it. It's very, I liked it. I still like it. Mm-hmm. I think it doesn't have enough action in to make it really great. I could have used some unique action sequence, and they towards the end they do have kind of a uniqueness to it. But we'll get into spoilers. What are your?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, this is coming off the back of like The Godfather, right? And The Godfather is like this slow and methodical, and these long shots that us in our modern eyes were just like, why that long shot? But I think if you get wrapped up into that, you miss the point. Mm-hmm. And the point, I felt like one of the points throughout in this film is like a cry against modernity, because a
little bit. Yeah.
There's a scene where he has to take the boy and his mother. He can't take him to a hotel. So he takes him to his sister's house to stay the night. And his sister, you don't see the kids, you don't see her kids, but he talks to her about it. And he talks to her about the fact that she's got a man in the house, some boyfriend that is in the house with her kids in the house. And he gets a little pissed off about it. And he's just like, oh, was his name Fred? I want to say his name was Fred. He's like, it's a Fred now. So basically he's like,
it implies that the sister is kind of sowing wild oats or whatever.
Yeah. And this, you see this kind of contrast, and they do that. I'm sure they do this on purpose, but like you see kind of this contrast of this. And then he goes to the Amish community and just how they all are in a community and they help each other, and they build a barn together. Like all these things kind of happen. And I think that that's kind of the magic of this film.
Yeah.
Is that you get this glimpse into a different life and it's I love it's the kind of classic Romeo and Juliet. He's a modern man, and he's
like forbidden love. It's got a like forbidden love.
Exactly. And he's come from this outside world. The slow burn, I think, is part of why this works, because you're getting a glimpse into the life of the Amish and how everything's like slowed down, and everything's just, it's not as loud, long moments that are kind of drawn out. I think was to kind of do that, to kind of bring you in and give you the feel of this world that is slower and more simple and relaxed.
It's part of our new age, right? Yeah. The inability to kind of have slower moments. Well, I guess we should get into spoilers. Spoilers now. So this little boy witnesses a murder, and it's a murder of a cop. You keep finding out little bits about it. Like the cop that was murdered was investigating some other cops and dirty cops, essentially. So this is about dirty cops, and they were skimming off the top of some substance that was put into drugs.
Harrison Ford realizes this is an inside job. He goes to his superior, which he soon realizes is in on it as well, because he almost gets killed, and he's like, "Oh, this guy's in on it as well."
Yeah,
right?
And then he quickly gets the boy and his mother out of the city, and they get back to their rural community where he's been shot, he's been wounded, and they nurse him back to health. And that's probably one of the reasons that this movie's a little slower, because once you get into the community, the Amish community, it becomes a very slow paced film. And like you were saying earlier, I think that's intentional. It's intentional. And there is like this intention where he's a man of violence, and they emphasize that because he's a cop, and the grandfather and the boy have this long talk about handguns. They call it the gun of the hand, because the Amish do have guns, they hunt, but they don't have handguns, and they're like a pacifist community. They never respond to violence. They're a very peaceful community. There's this specific scene in this movie when Harrison Ford's character, I think his name's John Book, they get stopped by these punks, and these kids start harassing the
Amish folk.
The folk. And that scene's where Viggo Mortensen is. I kept seeing Viggo Mortensen's face. Like, I think he has one line in the entire movie, and he doesn't.
And it's in German.
And it's in German.
Yep.
And so
he says something in German to the guy. It's like
something in German. And it's funny just seeing him because he's become this big star. Anyways, I think this is his actual first movie. I think he was a stage actor before they got him for this movie. Anyway, so Harrison Ford comes and beats up these punks, and I just thought, this is great. This is a great, masculine ethos moment, because I don't believe in pacifism. I believe in standing up for what's right, and that's what he does. He stands up for what's right. He puts these punks in their place. And we as moviegoers, we're just sitting there going, yeah, get those guys. But it has like a deeper underlining meaning, because he is a man of the world and has this these violent tendencies. It's funny because they make light of it at the beginning of the film, because she calls it whacking, and he's like, whacking? She's going around whacking men. He's like, whacking? So
this is to the point of the fact that he probably cannot be in this community.
Yeah.
It's a separation. It shows a separation.
Yeah.
He's like, this is not our way. Or the grandfather tells Harrison Ford, he's like, this is John Book. This is not our way. And he's like,
it's my way.
So it was right there. You see a separation in the fact that he is not Amish, and possibly what it's trying to tell us also is that he never could be.
Yeah.
And of course, this is kind of a dynamic throughout. And of course, we're in spoilers. Of course, you see him leave at the end. Yeah. So you basically understand that
he can never be part of it.
He's never going to be. And there's a scene where, and to be honest, I loved this scene where she offers herself up to him to make love to her.
Oh, you're talking about the
bathing scene. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is after a work day, and he's kind of sitting outside
enjoying the simplicity of the night, probably.
And he's seeing her like clean up in the kitchen. And it's funny because the visuals here are they're using the visuals very precisely because he's outside. So there's a separation. Like he can't be inside, right? He's outside looking in. And this is the whole experience of him in the Amish community is really, he's an outsider and he's getting a glimpse inside.
Yeah.
Right. So he's looking in, and then she's up, she goes up the next scene. She's up bathing herself, and he goes, and the door is just half ajar. And she sees him, and he's not inside the room. He's still outside the room. So he's still an outsider. They're using the visuals for this reason. And she doesn't
shy away. She doesn't cover herself. She doesn't shy away. She's offering herself up. She's going, and he thinks about it, and he wants to. And it's so great because he doesn't.
This is him. This is him being a man. This is him realizing there's, oh, sure, he could get another notch on his belt. Another woman to make that he made love to, right? But he realizes that
they're of two different worlds, and it wouldn't work.
And he says that the next day,
she's in the chicken coop. Yeah,
she's in the chicken coop, and he's outside.
And he's outside.
Once again, they're using the visuals.
It's Peter Weir. Peter Weir is a master storyteller. He does a great job at.
He's an outsider, and he's not inside. So he doesn't even open the door to come talk to her. He talks to her through the door of the chicken coop, and he says, "If we had made love last night, I'd have to stay,
or you'd have to go,
or you'd have to leave." So the decision would have to have been made.
It gives him a moral compass because he's a hard-nosed cop, Philadelphia cop. He's whacking people. He's beating people up. You see how able violently he is. And if he was just a regular knuckle dragger, he'd be like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to take this woman and like you said, put another notch on my belt." But it's like, no, she has this love for him, and it's maybe ill-fated. So why damage it more by giving in to your base needs? It's an ill-fated love.
Explain that. Ill-fated. What do you mean there?
Well, it's not going to end with them being happily married and having children. It's going to end with him leaving and her pining a little bit for him.
Well, and it's funny that throughout they've got another character. Daniel was the other love interest.
Yeah, played by a villain from the same actor played one of the villains, the blonde villain in Die Hard. Like a couple years later. Yeah. That's
He's
the same dude.
Blonde guy.
Yeah. The sadistic
tall
blonde
guy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's funny.
He's actually the actor is a famous, Russian, ballet.
No way. Oh,
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, his character, you see, he is kind of throughout, and it's interesting to me because I think she likes him, but then there's this, strong, masculine, rough and tough guy from the outside.
Because this is something very interesting. This appeals to women very much in a very evolutionary biology sense. Because when we were, cavemen, if you want to go that route, a man who was violent could protect women.
So if a woman liked a man, she wanted to like a man that not only would take care of her, but also be able to fight
To
off the
fight,
saber-toothed lions.
yes.
Saber-toothed tigers. Sorry.
Or mammoth or whatever it came after them. So this
Yeah.
was kind of this is kind of ingrained in our society. DNA probably more so because women are most appealed by men who are violent, but violent towards aggressors to the family.
Not violent towards them.
Not violent towards them. So there's a distinction there that has to be made. And they're competent, so they can bring back the mammoth to the woman, and they're
the meat.
Yeah. And they're able to sire children. So this is all ingrained in our evolutionary biology. And so she's finding Book, Harrison Ford's character, very appealing because he's also got a violent but kind nature. So she sees him with her son, and he's very good with the son. He's firm with the son, but he's also a very kind and generous. Like there's a part where he's playing with the cats with him, with the boy. There's these little nuggets of like he's kind to him, but he's also a violent man. So he can beat up people. He knows how to use a gun. He's protective of her and the community. So that is appealing to her. So she's more intrigued by him than she is by Daniel, who has been around her probably her entire life. Daniel's also part of her community, so he has no curious appeal. He's the better choice for her, but she's intrigued and she wants Book. And it's so interesting because Daniel they don't play it off like he's a bad guy. They play it off like he's very affable. He's very kind. He's good with the son, but she doesn't want him. She wants Harrison Ford's character.
Yeah.
I
like how they kind of play this. They play this balance. She's like, she wants this guy, but he's a bad choice. Like she wants this guy. He's a bad choice.
Mm-hmm.
The better choice for her, because of this culture that they are in, is this Daniel character. And you see this a little bit where they kind of play this a little with John and Daniel's, so Harrison Ford character and Daniel, where they are a little bit competing. They're out at the farm, the barn raising.
The barn raising, they're competing. And what's so great is the part where he comes to see her and he's just met and he's sitting on the porch and they're drinking lemonade and they can't touch each other, but they're sitting there, and then they see Harrison Ford's character like mulling around,
wandering around
the yard.
It's so uncomfortable. It's awkward.
It's very, very awkward. It's so funny. There's a couple like really light moments in this, and that's one of them. And like with the barn raising scene is like the most famous scene from this movie. It's like everybody talks about the barn raising scene because they actually did that. So it's a sense of community that this has. And so the barn raising scene, they actually made that barn. It's not like they made a fiberglass barn or anything like that. They actually put it up and then tore it down a few days later. And Harrison Ford's an accomplished carpenter. That's where he got his start in Hollywood. He was his set carpenter. And so this appealed to him. So he's actually doing all of this work, this carpentry work for real. So the barn raising scene is funny because he's in this weird competition with Daniel for her affections. Mm-hmm. And there's like these little, they don't say anything. There's no dialogue for most of this.
Eyes. It's all in the eyes.
Yeah. And she serves him first. And that's where the grandfather notices. The grandfather's like, what is she doing?
Yeah.
Like, why is she serving him first?
Mm-hmm.
And so this is like kind of against their ways because she's kind of laying the groundwork. Like, this is the man that I'm interested in. And it's so funny because then Daniel's like glaring, like eye daggers towards him because
Yep.
and Harrison Ford's like playing it off like, oh, she's so nice, and
Yeah, he doesn't know what's going on.
he doesn't know what's going on. But it's such an interesting dynamic for the you and I talk about this all the time, the virtuous monster, right? So Harrison Ford's character would be considered the virtuous monster, where he's got the abilities to provide and protect, but that's what appeals to her. But because of the Amish and the way she was raised and the way he was raised, they're basically never they would never fit together, and that's kind of the way things go. And everybody, we're in spoiler territory, so they actually, after he's healed and the bad guys are vanquished, he's driving away, and it shows Daniel walking down the road, and it's
coming towards her.
It's coming towards her.
So we know what happened. We know how it ends.
Yep.
And that's
Daniel marries her, and he's good to her, and she
Daniel was the better fit. Let's just
better
in all
fit.
honesty, because that's.
But there's appeal there because she's looking at the virtuous monster. She wants that. She wants a protector, a aggressive man, a man who's going to stand up for what's right. That's what she wants. Yeah,
it's tough because Daniel's he's a trooper.
Solid,
he's a trooper when it comes to their beliefs.
Yeah, he's going to follow their beliefs.
He puts up with this guy taking the
ice cream on the
ice
nose.
Cream and putting it on his face and making fun of him and everything.
Yeah, he puts up
and
with
you
it.
could tell in his eyes he
wants to
pissed.
tear that guy. Yeah,
he's pissed, but control. He's got
the control.
So I mean, kudos to him, really, because he's living his beliefs.
Yeah, but he's living his beliefs, but you also have to be able to stand up for what's right.
It's a contrast, and they showed it well. And that's
what's great about it.
behind this film is, and like, with our modern eyes, it's tough to watch with how much of a slow burn it is. But as you watch it and you realize this is digging deep, it really is. Yeah. This film is digging deep, and when you are okay with that, all right. We're digging deep here, right? Barn raising, all the stuff, all the dynamic of just the eyes, the eyes, and the dynamic between the two men who are in a little bit of a competition. It's like anyway, I don't know. I was there for it. I liked it.
Yeah, it's a solid film. It like I said, it feels kind of like a forgotten film. It was a big hit in 1985, but it's 40 years.
Siskel and Ebert loved it.
Yeah.
Like I was watching a video
of Siskel and Ebert.
Yeah, YouTube. They've got one, and where they're talking about it.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it's funny how like old the Siskel and Ebert review is just funny. Yeah. It's just like, wow, this is great.
Times have changed, man. Okay, so we're going to try a new segment to our show where if we're doing an older movie, we're going to say if it was made today, if Hollywood remade this,
how would it be different?
How would it be different?
Is that kind of right?
That's kind of what I'm going for. So
okay.
So this is a 40-year-old movie. If this script came on somebody's desk, how would they change this today?
Well, first off, I think they would have shown her loss of faith and her leaving
with him,
leaving the cult,
the community,
and finding her freedom in modernity.
Actually, I'm going to throw you one better. She doesn't leave with him. She leaves on her own.
Oh yeah. Because love.
Yeah, because
Can't have
love. We
that.
can't have love in movies nowadays.
She can't do anything for a man.
Yeah,
she needs
to
find her inner power.
And she's got to get out into the world, and she goes and screws a bunch of people and becomes
So
a
she
stripper.
probably would have been the one that killed the cops.
Yes.
So that it would have been about her, like,
killing
finding
the dirty
that inner
cops.
power,
Yeah.
and then she kills the cops. And Harrison Ford isn't even like.
Oh yeah,
John Book
isn't even in the movie.
No, it doesn't even. Don't take him out. Like, it doesn't matter.
He's just a side character that shows up. It's not about his fish out of water being in this new community, in the community. What it is going to be about, it's going to be about her breaking the shackles of her
religious upbringing.
She gets mad at the grandfather and says stuff like, I'm an independent woman and I've learned a little bit about the world, and then the bad guys come to fight her, and she fights them. Yeah.
Is there a kid in it?
Yeah, the kid's in it, but she
leaves the kid because she had to go, find
herself. Yeah.
So the grandfather
raises the kid. Yeah. I was going to go in a different direction. I was going to say the sister, John Book's sister, is probably in a gay relationship, or something along those lines.
Yeah. She's got another woman in the house.
Yeah, she's got another woman in the house. No children.
I can't have children
because. Yeah, so the witness is actually going to be the Kelly McGillis character, Rachel. She's the actual witness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So wait, then no kid.
So
she doesn't have a kid. Okay.
So she doesn't have a kid.
Yeah.
And then with this cop trying to help her out, teaches her about the getting out of the cult.
It's a female cop, and they fall in love.
Oh, they fall in love.
Yeah!
Oh yeah. What?
That's what they would do. It's a female cop.
Yeah, it's a female cop, and she
finds her woman power falling in love with another woman.
With another woman.
So John Book's character is a woman,
and they fall in love, and that's the true. And then they pulls her away from her faith and beliefs, and they go to the big city together, and then they break up in a few years.
She would probably have a kid, but the kid just, keeps her from finding her woman
herself.
Power.
Yeah, her woman power.
She needs to leave the kid with her grandfather and, get out of the cult and go
find herself. Yeah.
Yeah.
That seems about right.
Jeez. Am I wrong? Like
what's so sad is that's probably what would happen.
That's
if they
probably what
remade
happened
it.
if they remade this.
What are your last thoughts on this?
It's not a last thought, but I'll ask you. At the beginning, the boy sees the statue in the train station.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what that statue was, so I looked it up. But that statue is a tribute to 1,300 soldiers that died in World War II from Philadelphia.
Oh, really?
So that's what that statue. It's an angel, and it's grabbing a soldier. And the soldier's obviously passed away, but but the angel's taking the soldier up. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll watch for a throwback to see if that has anything to do with the rest of the film. And I don't know that it does.
Nobody of any significance dies other than his partner dies.
Yeah.
And the cop from the original scene. So within minutes of him looking at that statue, there's a cop that's murdered. So that's the callback, is it's a soldier that's being taken up.
Right after he sees that, and this might play into a little bit of a society that lives by the sword, dies by the sword.
Yeah.
Right. So Jesus has this comment to I want to say Peter.
Yeah.
When Peter cuts off the ear of a Roman, and he says, he who lives by the sword dies by the sword. And I mean, it's possibly true. And that's they talk about it. The grandfather is telling
Samuel about the gun.
Samuel. Yeah. So this is where it fits in. I'm glad I talked to you about this because it does fit in. And because he talks to Samuel and he's like, there's been many wars. There's been many, where people kill each other, and we want nothing to do with that.
Well, and this is the theme of the movie, right? Because Samuel goes, I would use that against a bad man. And the grandfather goes, well, how do you know who is the bad man? He goes, by their deeds, by what they have done.
The kid says that?
This kid says that. He says, I have seen bad men. He saw a man get killed in a bathroom.
Interesting.
So it's two sides to this.
Yeah.
There's the pacifist side that says that we must not fight
separate ourselves from
evil, and we do our thing, and we're separated from evil. And then Samuel, what he's talking about, the little boy, is he's saying, but I know bad men by their deeds. And I'm going to, and the handgun, the gun of the hand, is a check against those men.
Yeah.
I think that's the theme of the movie. The theme of the movie is there's pacifism and the virtuous monster. And I believe there's probably a little bit of honor in both.
Yeah.
And thank God we live in this country, because the Amish can be in this country, live the way they want to live. And they are governed by the laws of this country. So as long as they don't cause problems with someone else, they'll live this way for another 100 years, another 1,000 years.
Protected by borders of a nation that does have teeth.
Yeah. That does have virtuous monsters.
Not always. I mean, sometimes we're
wrong.
In the wrong. You know, it's like the grandfather says, how do we know? How do we know? That I think you're right. I think that did have that scene with the angel statue does have a
point to the rest of it
in this film. That's really cool.
Yeah, I think we'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Check us out on social media, Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Just look for the Sword of the Skull. If you're listening to this and not watching it, please go to YouTube and like, share, and subscribe.
And if you liked this video, you are the audience we're looking for.
In the meantime, keep reading, keep listening, keep watching, learn more.
And if you liked that video, click on another one of our random videos.